Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new playthrough. We've done 3 Batman games, so I think it's only fair we give some Marvel side some love of things. It's Spider-Man on PS4, or in this case, it's the remastered version on PlayStation 5. Because it has a new PlayStation Studios logo and has not Tom Holland's face.
I was gonna say.
Never mind, got a random
Yeah, I was
thing.
curious. I didn't look at the footage beforehand. I was curious if you were recording a PS4 or PS5 remaster.
No, I wanted to have the super fast load times, and they are instant, and it is so nice.
Yeah, I don't blame you, and it's probably something we will be bringing up a handful of times throughout this playthrough. But man, I do not like Peter Parker's face in the remaster.
Yeah,
It's just one of those.
It's okay. I just
unnecessary
like
changes.
It's an unnecessary change. It's not terrible, but it's one of those. I don't hate the new face, but the old one was just a lot better.
Here. I just have a question. With a new face, does the old face animation work? Because that was a thing that the
No, it works. It works fine. It's just not the proper face for the Spider-Man they're going for.
Okay.
See, I don't know what the problem is. Spider-Man's face seems to look exactly the same there as it normally does.
We're talking about Peter's face.
What does Peter Parker have to do with Spider-Man? I'm very confused about this.
Well, one day along came a spider. So
I ask because when the Tomb Raider remaster came along, the reboots remaster, they changed her face to be more in line with the rise of the Tomb Raider face, and not all of the animations lined up properly after the change.
no, they made sure the face works fine in this. So.
Okay, that's good. So at least we won't have to deal with like jank face animations on top of the question of whether or not
regardless of which face Peter has, the game looks amazing. So
yeah. This opening was expertly calculated to make sure that you know that Spider-Man is the most relatable son of a bitch in the Marvel universe.
Probably in superheroes in general.
I mean, that was always his thing, but this opening really hammered it home right away. And for those of us who knew Spider-Man,
Oh my god!
Hey y'all, Scott.
I was waiting for some sort of credit thing because you free frame. At first, I thought the console was fucking up, but
No, meet
it's-
our main hero, Scott the Wasp without glasses.
I agree that Spider-Man is probably one of the most relatable superheroes in our time. Why can't I be bothered to pick up a comic of him though? That's the
Because
thing.
comics are a pain in the ass at this point.
I'm talking about even years prior, before.
I mean,
like,
John, remember we
MCU
were
and
kids
all
when
that.
Clone Saga was going on, so
I don't acknowledge Clone Saga.
I forgot that they did this thing where they have his eyes emote.
yeah. That's MCU stuff. But to give the game massive props here, it was expertly started because it's not like in a room with baddies. The first thing they start you with is web swinging, the best part of the game.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like the most iconic thing about Spider-Man in general is him just like fucking around.
Yeah,
really
but it
like
was
this.
also like always the most unique and technically impressive thing about the Spider-Man video games. So the fact that we didn't jump into like Arkham Combat right away, the fact that the first thing we're doing is this freeform web slinging was definitely a good decision.
Yeah, because we're interested in playing as Spider-Man.
And
among everything
Yeah, and
else.
swinging around New York is the most Spider-Man thing Spider-Man does.
Yeah.
Now,
Like if this was any other game 20 years ago, this
Do
they
you
start with
web
the stealth
swing
Peter
into
Parker section.
midair, like onto the sky, like in some of them? No,
You have to
Okay.
attach to something.
Okay.
yeah, so when you're web swinging past the park, you either have to go around or you have to go low to the ground so you can hit the trees.
Okay.
Sometimes the webs aren't like super de-duper loyal to what's above you. Basically, you just need to be in an area where the game registers that you can swing on things. There are...
That said, while there isn't an endless supply of satellites to web sling off of, Ted,
Convenient construction cranes everywhere.
yeah, it's still super easy to swing pretty much anywhere you want.
it's a little bit easier than it would have been in Spider-Man 2.
You also have way more flexibility in what you can do because you can just straight up run up walls. You can pivot bounce by latching onto like posts and stuff. You basically, when you're playing the game, you can, if you're good enough, you can basically not stop moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great.
if we were playing Spider-Man 2 or Ultimate Spider-Man, it would have been a little bit more strict, and some players actually prefer that. I don't. So, agree to disagree. What I have
Oh, wait,
to
hold
wonder-
on. It said Fisk on their thing. That means they're the bad guys.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Nope, yep, start the game. We're going right after Wilson Fisk.
Yeah, that's...
This game is not an origin story. It is straight up. Pete's been Spidey for like 4 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah. This is actually a pretty good opener because like it establishes a reason why there are so many random crimes and mooks to fight around the city after this. It's because you took down Fisk at the beginning of the game. There's a power vacuum now. So everything that happens after this kind of springboards off of that. The combat system is okay. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's doing Arkham, but the problem is Batman is built for Arkham systems. Spider-Man isn't quite the same character in that regard.
I mean, Batman, Arkham City and whatever, Batman basically was Spider-Man. Because he had a spider sense, he had all of this other random BS.
I'm not talking about that specifically. I'm talking about Batman cannot stay in the air forever. Spider-Man functionally can.
The thing about the Arkham
mean
combat system is that it's built to be free-flowing, which means Batman sort of floats from enemy to enemy, which is a lot more visually believable because he's generally closer to them than
he's Spider-Man.
Than Spider-Man is. Well, yeah.
I mean, like none of this stuff seems out of place.
It's more like
it's fine. It's just the problem is in order to make sure it's balanced so where Spider-Man can still get hit because you can just do this, you can just stay in the air forever and juggle a guy. You have to have enemies with guns and long-reaching tools in order to hit him because Spider-Man is super powered. He can just do that. Whereas Batman can't stay in the air, so he is always on a level playing field with the opponents you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So basically that results in the combat being kind of janky, where later on, not these super early tutorial stuff, but later on where you are going to get blindsided by pot shots and stuff, and that will ruin your combo, and that'll make things difficult for you. It's fine, it works, it's certainly not bad by any means, it's just one of those... I don't think they found a good balance between Arkham style combat and
it's easy to get overwhelmed in this game, and I felt that as early as the opening part of this, because I remember one of my official complaints, original complaints of the game was that they throw too much at you at once.
The two problems with this combat system that you're going to have to make peace with are what we just talked about, and also the occasional bit of visual jank when Spider-Man drifts toward an enemy that you want him to hit, and it doesn't quite visually scan because he's too far away, but the game still counts it. And sometimes he just sort of skates on over. It can be funny.
I would say comparing the two, it is easier to get into an Arkham game because Batman doesn't stay in midair for as long as he does, because the combat is more grounded. And, I know I'm talking about a dude who can zip 50 feet across a fucking football field to keep a combo going. But bear with me. When I mean grounded, I mean there's not much. Batman doesn't do as much as Spider-Man.
Yeah, the issue is Spider-Man can just stay in the air for as long as he wants. That's the fundamental problem here, and I don't know what you can do on a gameplay front to mitigate that.
There is also just more buttons to do more stuff with. And again, as early as here, they threw all of it at you. Like, you press buttons to punch, press this to knock them in the air, press this to throw a web lob or web swing.
They are kind of counting on the player to already know the basics of Arkham combat, so...
if that was their intent... It still sucks.
Oh, yeah, I know. What I'm saying is, like, the difficulty curve is a bit weird unless you already know the combat.
It's kind of like Arkham Knight, where it just assumes you played at least one of the first 3 games.
Yeah. It's a bit weird for a Spider-Man game to assume you've played a couple Batman games beforehand, but...
Well, I mean, it's not just... I've not played either. I know this is weird, being the only Marvel fan in the room having not played this the
I
Marvel
mean,
game. But
yeah, not played it. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure all of us here are on some level still Marvel fans.
Well, I mean,
yeah, it doesn't feel like it sometimes. But
well,
you
I
know,
mean,
whatever.
they could be assuming that you played the Amazing Spider-Man games because they kind of had Arkham Combat too, just not as good.
a lot of bog standard action games have borrowed heavily from Batman because Batman also borrowed a decent bit. Like not, and from everything I've seen, the Batman battle system wasn't particularly unique. It was pretty.
It was
by the
refined,
books.
so it was not unique, but it was completely refined to the state it was in. Was more the thing.
Yeah, so it's not like
Basically, Spider-Man and Batman have a long history of just borrowing each other's ideas gameplay-wise over and over.
It is good that we finally have a legitimately good Marvel video game though. Apart from
Well, I mean,
stupid arcade beat 'em ups, thank you.
I mean, sort of. Spider-Man. It's basically just been Spider-Man and Batman and no one else, unless it comes to like either beat 'em ups or fighting games.
Man, you know,
like some
I-
people really like the X-Men Diablo clone, the Ultimate Alliance, was it? X-Men
Ultimate
Alliance.
Alliance.
X-Men
those are based off
Alliance
of,
and its
the
much
Legends
and,
and all
and
that.
its much more refined cousin. What was it? Marvel
Ultimate Alliance.
Ultimate Alliance. Yeah.
There was Marvel Ultimate Alliance. All of them were based off of, I think, X-Men Legends, which I think was the predecessor for all those games.
I know some people like those. I'm not really a big Diablo
Those
kind of
games are
fan.
too long.
Well, I mean, they're
Well, I mean,
they're RPGs, so
They're,
you
yeah,
know.
they're Diablo-like, so they're
Do
gonna
we,
be long. But
Do we bring up the Avengers game in the room?
I mean, Lewis and I did a
not
video
yet.
on that.
I
It honestly seemed okay. It just
I
kind of
liked
seemed
it
a
well
little-
enough. I still enjoy it.
It
Does
it's
get
not deep from what I can see, but it seems like fun enough.
It starts to feel more repetitive once you start doing the missions that are clearly built for multiplayer. But I enjoyed it. I mean, it's also a far cry better than a certain other similar game that came out recently that I could mention but won't, because I feel sorry for Wizards of the Coast and their poor track record with video games. Okay,
man.
so like,
To zip to event. Which event? Oh, there's the event.
the one that's bright gold.
Well, the one that you couldn't see because the camera didn't inherently.
Focus on
it's
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're looking at waymarks all the time in this game anyway to find objective markers.
Yeah,
and-
we've
know.
definitely got some Ubisoftification of the objectives in this
that a
game.
word?
So I don't think you're going to get lost too often.
Good luck, bad guy. I hope someone finds you in here.
And man, you know, we're looking at the PS5 version. It looks very slick and smooth. I should stress this looked almost equally as slick and smooth on the PS4.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It
like, even
changed-
if you don't have the remaster, the game is still fantastic on PS4.
Yeah, it's just the
Just gotta
lighting.
deal with load times.
The load times and just the lighting's better.
Yeah, I can definitely see the lighting, and that definitely brings it out. But
Doing that kind of siren is definitely them showing off with the lighting, like 1000%.
man, I'm just looking at Spider-Man here, and it's such a great costume. It's too bad we're gonna see it replaced by that abomination with all the white add-ons.
I mean,
Really?
there are tons of other suits in this game you can wear if you
Yeah, I
want.
know. You can always switch back to the classic suit, which I
Yeah.
pretty much immediately do every time because
Not the Raimi suit.
I think you have to do something specific to unlock that, and I don't
No,
think I
that's
have
no,
yet.
that's just free download.
Oh, it's a free download.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's free download.
Yeah, because it was like the number one suit that they wanted in the game that they didn't put
Shut
in the
up
game
about.
for whatever reason.
Well, to start with, yeah.
It's just weird to me as a Marvel fan seeing Kingpin in this game. I know that like Kingpin originally appeared in Spider-Man, so it's certainly fine
this
for him
is
to be
ki-
there. It's just weird when he's just kind of became a Daredevil villain later on.
Yeah,
Netflix
this
show,
is
yeah.
Not just the Netflix show, the comics too. He was
Yeah.
mostly Daredevil.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was a bona fide
Yeah,
Daredevil
but-
villain as
but
early as the
starting
OG.
off-
I mean that's not new. Wolverine started as a Hulk villain.
Starting starting off on Wilson Fisk here is kind of a callback to the '90s cartoon in particular, because Kingpin was a major Spider-Man villain in that cartoon specifically. So
He's probably the biggest villain in that show.
yeah. So those of us who remember that cartoon are going to remember basically three things: Venom, Carnage, and Wilson Fisk.
And Shocker.
And
Yeah,
Shocker who?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll follow you to the end of the
How do you not remember Shocker? Peter screams his name skyward.
Like,
Shocker is my
Good
favorite
15
villain
seconds.
in the early Ultimate Spider-Man comics because he spends like 30 issues just getting the crap kicked out of him. And then there's a
Well, I mean,
really
we're
cool
gonna
issue.
fight Shocker here.
Yeah, he's the joke villain of Marvel, really.
Yeah.
But it's actually there's a really cool moment with it in the old Ultimate Spider-Man. This is before Miles Morales and before it got bad before Miles Morales, I should stress. There was an issue where Shocker like managed to capture Peter Parker, and it's just a really like well written issue about like how he's tired of being treated like a joke, and it's really well written. I also hear great things about him in the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, I believe it's called. That's one where I think it was around the time Doc Ock was Spider-Man. Yes, I know, comics are weird. And like they just had this side series where it's like 6 of the least known Spider-Man villains had their own series, and Shocker was one of them. I forget who the other ones were. I also hear really good things about that series, too.
I just want to back up a second and admire how when Spider-Man is trying to yank a piece of huge debris out and it finally goes free, instead of like stumbling backward, he just does a casual backflip to play out the momentum. You know.
Gotta keep it cool. People are watching.
They nailed Spider-Man's character in this game, which is part of the reason it's so annoying that they changed his face, because like
he was older faced in the original version, and that fit who he is now.
Yeah.
Also, his actor Yuri Lowenthal does a fantastic job.
Well, Yuri Lowenthal is just one of the best voice actors currently in video games right now. I love him in a lot of different stuff.
Now, did we ever figure out why the face changed? Was it just
They wanted to look more like Tom Holland.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Marvel's video game direction right now is very
Scatterbrained.
It's more like they really do want the games to tie into the movie crowd, and they figure the best way to do this is to have aesthetic similarities. You saw the same thing in the Marvel Avengers game.
You idiots!
Yeah, I was gonna
you
say,
captured their stunt doubles.
I think it started with Spider-Man. Then we got Tom Holland's stunt double. I was like, hey, you know, let's get everybody else's stunt double.
I think that that's not the best way to go about it, because
No, it's
every
not,
time
and
they've
everyone's-
done that
agree,
with
I agree.
Iron Man, it's just seemed like a bad Robert Downey Jr. impersonator.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because
Yeah.
there was kind of a big argument. It was like, why are folks making such a big stink about this? There are different incarnations of different Avengers throughout the course of history, and it's like, yeah, that's not the problem. The problem is that it's clearly just trying to be the MCU Avengers without it being it. It's like, why bother with the stunt doubles? Or just make them an original design.
Like, this
Yeah.
Spider-Man is very clearly not the Tom Holland Spider-Man in personality.
Yeah.
Because he's
Yeah.
not as doofy, for lack of a better word.
He's also not
you
a
know?
teenager. He's in his mid-20s.
Yeah, like I really like the Spider-Man in this game. The change of face is just kind of egregious. I really want to get a hold of the PC version of this remaster so that I can immediately mod the original face back in.
Well, no, it's made by Insomniac, which is a PlayStation studio, so it's not anytime soon.
it's never coming to PC. Yeah.
They're bringing they're bringing games to PC. It's
like
just a matter of
3 to 5 years.
it's just a matter of waiting for the delay. Yeah, I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn is on PC now, which is excellent.
Did Insomniac make Horizon?
No, that was a difference too. But it's a PlayStation-owned property.
Yes, it's very explicitly a Sony property, so you know.
Okay.
And they're gonna have to start doing it to compete with Microsoft. It's only a matter of time. So, yeah. But I do like the way this combat feels when you get your groove on. It's just that it feels like you get your groove on significantly less often than you do in Batman.
I don't know. It looks really fun from what I've seen right now.
It is.
yeah,
really
It's
like,
fun.
fun.
We're not at all saying it's a bad system. It's just a matter of
It's just like
if Batman's like a 10 out of 10 on how the combat feels great when you're in the zone, Spider-Man is like a 9.
yeah, it kind of like it takes a little bit longer to get in the zone, and then when you're in the zone, it's easier to fall out of the zone. It's weird, but I mean, I'd still prefer this combat to Batman Arkham Origins, but that's only because the way they handled counterattacks in Origins kind of screwed with the whole system. Man, this is seriously 90s Kingpin. I'm surprised with the constant likenesses to the MCU that they didn't try to make Kingpin look like his Daredevil series counterpart, but no, this is Spider-Man Kingpin.
No, but then that would acknowledge that Daredevil is in the same series as the Avengers, which is not the case.
He is. They talk about it.
No.
No,
Yes.
thanks,
no,
Loki. Nope,
Yes.
thanks, Loki.
What?
I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers.
Oh, what did they do? Some weird time travel fuckery to
I
explain
haven't
those-
watched it yet. No spoilers.
I haven't watched it either.
John,
I haven't watched it. No spoilers. Proceeds to ask questions to spoil the plot.
I mean, I would watch it. I have Disney
Ted's
Plus.
Well,
Ted's
Ted
not,
hasn't watched it, so I'm not going to answer
like
your
it.
question.
Ted doesn't want spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
I have Disney Plus, but I'm so far behind on the MCU that I'm afraid to watch Loki. So,
Well, I mean, forget it. I can't even make a joke without spoiling it.
What is it? Wait, does he have like weeb bullshit in here? Like samurai paintings and like
Yeah.
samurai art? Why is
That's been a thing.
He's-
That's
he's
a thing that's been part of Kingpin's character for a while now.
wait? It has?
kind of
Yeah,
the same
he likes-
reason Don
yeah, he-
Corneo
he-
has all his Wu Tai stuff around. It's just
Yeah, no.
expensive nonsense.
Geese Howard? Okay, sure. Cool.
But yeah, my favorite Peters are still this and Enter the Spider-Verse Peter.
I love it
Oh,
when
Enter
they.
the Spider-Verse is just the best Spider-Man thing. So, you know.
I love it when they acknowledge that Kingpin, while a regular human being, is kind of a massive hulking monster.
Ow.
Ow.
I mean, when Kingpin got down and dirty and actually fought in the comics, it was always a sight to see. So,
Yeah, no, Kingpin's like as tough as most of the like major villains and heroes. Like he's not. That's what makes him more interesting than like Tombstone, for example.
Oh, well, we'll see him later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tombstone is in this game, and I actually like this incarnation of Tombstone in this game.
The only version of Tombstone I've really liked is the one from Spectacular Spider-Man, and that's just because he's basically just Kingpin. But at the time, they didn't have the rights to Daredevil, so they couldn't use actual Kingpin. Because, you know, Marvel still regrets its decisions in the 90s to this day.
Well, that they were kind of between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s weren't kind to most comic things.
I mean, they're not kind of comics now.
I mean, yes, that's true. But the 90s were different. Man.
well,
You had to been there, man.
it's more
Remember
like
when Michael Jackson tried to buy Marvel so he could play Spider-Man on the screen?
Wait, what? Hold on.
You didn't know
What?
about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Michael Jackson in the late '90s thought was trying to buy Marvel so that way he could play Peter on a Spider-Man movie.
that's
A
good.
Michael Jackson Spider-Man.
I mean, would that have
Gonna
been better
swing
or
around
worse?
town. Wee hee hee.
Okay, John, better or worse than the back in the day the Beatles wanted to do a Lord of the Rings movie and have them be the Hobbits? What would be worse?
Is that why people associate the Beatles with the Lord of the Rings for some reason?
Yes.
Okay.
Would Ringo
wanted-
be
they wanted to-
Pippin? I think that he would have to be Pippin, right? Like
What,
as the
Ringo?
one nobody really cares about. Yeah,
Well, George would have to be Mary then.
yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, this was
but-
before the Peter Jackson movies, so like
This was like the '70s, so.
so like the current dynamics
the
with
60s,
Mary
then.
and Pippin, throw them out the window because those started with the Peter
my
Jackson
God.
movies.
But a Jackson Spider-Man, you'd always hear coming. You go, there's a singular he with every fucking web sling.
Spider-Me, Spider-Me.
Ooh, ooh,
Mary Jane is not my lover.
ooh. I thought he was.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
I thought he was
Big
about
time
to pull a
events.
backbreaker for a moment.
Okay, yeah, this was the one thing in the trailers and stuff that I wasn't really super cool on. Was
It doesn't do
the-
it that often, but it
Krypton
is
stuff.
one of those things where it's like, did we really need to keep these in?
Is it the year 2009? Like, come on.
No, 2004.
To be
No,
fair,
they kept on going up till the early 2010s.
To
John.
be
Did you
fair,
not- you played Bayonetta.
as far as the quick time events go, they're done reasonably well. It's just like we're at a point where game designers should know that we're not really interested in this stuff anymore.
I mean, I get why they're there because they want to make it. They want to
Interactive
have.
while they're doing their fancy cinematic stuff.
I'd rather
Yeah,
just have a
'cause-
cutscene, to be honest.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. You know, you want to see Spider-Man do flippy superhero-y shit that you really couldn't program as a game piece like that. But it's like, again, I'd just rather have the cutscene in that case, you know?
Yeah.
Gotta go. Hey.
Well, I mean, he's saying this will be like a minor inconvenience, but you know, going by the way Fisk played the prison system in the Daredevil show, it probably would be.
God bless America. God bless me.
Spider-Man away.